Welcome, beer enthusiasts.
Welcome.
Welcome, wombats. Welcome, wombats. This is your president speaking. I have declared a state of national emergency because we do not have enough understanding of how beer is made. Today we're going to be talking about the actual process, well, more the ingredients that go into making great beers. So, on our right or your left, we have water, H2O. So this is a thing that makes up the vast majority of what goes into every, pint and scooey that you order at the pub. The importance behind water can't be understated because it's not just about having water as a substance and giving the actual liquid to your beers. It's also about having a water that is suitable for making your particular beer styles. You need the water to be not too soft and not too hard, so you need to know the amount of minerals and salts that are in that water, and it has to be balanced to the specific beer that you're actually brewing. So fortunately for us here in Sydney, tap water, just straight out of the pipes, is actually pretty brilliant for just about any beer style. So we are fairly fortunate that we don't have to do a whole lot of manipulation and water chemistry when we're doing our brew days. Next, we have grains. So there's a couple different types of grains. You got barley, which is by far the most predominant. Then you got things like wheat, oat, and that sort of stuff. Here is just a glass of 2-row barley. So this is what makes up the vast majority of all of our, pale ales, IPAs, even some of our lagers, all that type of thing. The grains is what actually gives you the sugar in your beers, as well as the big bulk of the flavor. So picking a grain that gives you enough, conversion with the sugars that are in it is very important, and also very important to choosing what finish your beer will have. So if you choose just base malts, for example, you can make a really good classic style pale ale. But if you're trying to make something that's got a lot more mouthfeel, a lot more body, you probably want to choose grains that are more crystallized. So when they're in the kiln, they get treated at a higher temperature for a longer period of time to give them more caramelization. So that changes the flavor of the actual finished beer. So with something like a stout, for example, you're going to be using grains that are really heavily roasted. And that's what gives it that black color and really, espresso, chocolatey type flavors and aromas. Next, we have hops. So hops are the second most important ingredient in beer right after grains. These are the things that actually give you the bitterness, as well as all of those really tropical flavors, really herbal flavors, really foresty, earthy flavors. Any of that type of stuff that you're getting in your beer, that's coming from the hops. So these guys do give you the bitterness. So different hops have different alpha acids. We can dive into that in a further video where we go more in depth on the chemistry behind it. But it's the hops that give you the bitterness. So when you add them at the start of the boil, that's when you get your bittering hops. Towards the ends of the boil, that's when you get your flavoring and aroma hops. So choosing hops that want to actually complement your beer style are very, very, very important. So for something like a really fruity, really juicy NEPA, you're probably going to choose hops like El Dorado, Mosaic, Galaxy, which give really tropical, punchy flavors. Things like passion fruit, grapefruit, mango, orange, papaya, that sort of stuff. Whereas if you're going to make a more English style beer, something more like an English bitters side, you're going to choose something more like what's in this glass, which is Fuggles. I did buy this hop specifically because I thought the name was hilarious. I do want to make a beer called Where's the Fuggles? Something along those lines. Leave comments if you got a funny, pun based on this. But Fuggles do give you really earthy and really, piney type flavors. So for those more traditional style European beers, that's the hops you want to go for. So understanding hops and knowing what hops match what style of beer is very important when making your finished product. And then lastly, over here, we have yeast. So specifically in this glass, we have Kveik yeast, which is a Norwegian style, which makes a really juicy, really fruity style of beer at really high temperatures. But there's so many different types of yeasts. So understanding what yeast you need is just as important as understanding what hops you need. So different yeasts will produce different flavors in the finished product. Something like a Belgian Trappist style or a Belgian double, you're going to be using really estery styles of yeast, things that produce a lot of complex aromatics, flavors, and aromas, really volatile compounds. But with something like a lager, you're going to choose a very clean fermenting yeast, one that ferments at the bottom of the tank and gives you a lot of clarity, like in this particular beer here. So yeast is just as important as the hops, gives you a huge difference in the kind of flavors that you're getting in your finished product, as well as actually breaking down all the sugars from these grains here into alcohol. So these three here, you could consider the holy trinity. One can't work without the other. Then finally, at the end of all of this, once you've chosen the right grain bill, the right hop schedule, the right yeast to use to ferment your product, you end up with a beautiful, delicious beer. So cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you do want to find out more about this in more depth, please let me know below, and we can do a more scientific style, diving into each of these in a lot more complexity. So happy brewing, and have a good one.